Taemin had never wanted to be part of history. He was a cargo pilot, nothing more. His job was simple: pick up supplies from one station, drop them off at another, collect payment, and move on. The universe was big enough that a man could stay invisible if he tried hard enough. But the universe had other plans for him that day. The Convergence was unlike any station Taemin had seen before. It hung in neutral space like a massive steel flower, its petals made of docking bays that could hold ships from 100 different worlds. Lights blinked across its surface in patterns that meant nothing to human eyes, but probably told stories to the aliens who built it. Taemin guided his small cargo ship into Bay 17, feeling very small and very alone. He was there to deliver medical supplies to the human delegation. Earth had finally done it, built ships that could jump between stars, met other intelligent species, and earned an invitation to join the Galactic Assembly. Taemin was proud of humanity's achievement, but he wanted no part in the ceremonies. He just wanted to drop off his cargo and leave before the politicians started making speeches. The station's interior was even more impressive than the outside. The main corridor stretched for what seemed like miles, with ceilings so high that Taemin couldn't see the top. Aliens of every shape and size walked, floated, or crawled past him. Some had too many legs. Others had no legs at all. A few glowed with their own light. Taemin kept his eyes forward and walked quickly toward the human section. He found Sora in one of the observation rooms, staring out at the stars through a window that curved around the entire space. She was the station's xenobiologist, assigned to study alien life and help humans understand their new neighbors. Taemin had met her twice before on previous supply runs. She was smart, careful, and seemed to actually enjoy being surrounded by aliens. "You picked a bad day to visit," Sora said. Without turning around, Tae-Min set down the medical crates. "Why? What happened?" "The Rexians happened." Sora finally looked at him. Her face was tight with worry. "They showed up this morning with a warship and a challenge." Before Taemin could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A voice spoke in a language he didn't understand, then switched to English. "All personnel report to the Grand Assembly Hall. Immediate attendance required." Sora grabbed his arm. "Come on, you need to see this." The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous. Thousands of aliens filled the seats, creating a wall of noise that hurt Taemin's ears. At the center of the hall stood a platform, and on that platform stood something that made Taemin's stomach drop. The creature was 12 feet tall, maybe more. Its body was covered in thick armor that looked like it had grown there naturally, black and red plates that overlapped like roof tiles. It had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle and ending in hands that could probably crush a human skull. Its face was mostly hidden behind a helmet, but Taemin could see glowing yellow eyes through the visor. "That's Krua," Sora whispered. "Champion of the Rexian Empire. They've conquered 47 star systems." Hyan Wu, the station's head of security, pushed through the crowd to reach them. He was a former soldier, still built like one, but even he looked nervous. "This is bad. Really bad. What does it want?" Taemin asked. "To prove we're weak," Hyan Wu said. "The Rexians think humans don't belong in the assembly. They think we're too soft, too fragile. So Kruther issued a formal challenge. Ritual combat. If we refuse, we're out. If we accept and lose, we're out. Either way, they win." Taemin watched as the giant alien raised all 4 arms and roared. The sound echoed through the hall like thunder. Several smaller aliens near the front actually fled their seats. "Who's going to fight that thing?" Taemin asked. Hyan Wu and Sora looked at each other, then at him. "No," Taemin said immediately. "Absolutely not. You're the only option," Sora said. "The delegation is all diplomats and scientists. Hyan Wu can't do it because security personnel are excluded from challenges. You're the only human male here who qualifies. I'm a cargo pilot. The challenge was issued to humanity, Hyan Wu explained. Any human can answer. It doesn't matter what your job is. On the platform, Kafer was speaking now. The station's translator made his words understandable, though they lost none of their menace. Humans claim to deserve a place among the stars. But they are weak, soft. They have no honor, no strength. I challenge them to prove me wrong. Send your best warrior to face me, or admit your weakness and leave this place forever. The crowd erupted. Some aliens cheered. Others made sounds that might have been disapproval. A few stayed silent, watching to see what would happen. The human delegation huddled together near the front. There were 7 of them, scientists, diplomats, linguists. Not a soldier among them. One of the diplomats, an older man named Dong Hyan, looked up at where Taemin stood with Sora and Hyan Wu. His face said everything. They had no choice. Tae-Min felt sick. If I refuse, Earth gets rejected from the assembly, Hyan Wu said. Everything we've worked for, gone. And every other species will remember that humans back down from a challenge. We'll be marked as cowards for generations. And if I fight, you'll probably die, Sora said quietly. But at least we'll die with honor. Taemin looked at the monster on the platform. Cruther was performing now, showing off his strength by lifting massive weights with one arm, while his other 3 arms gestured at the crowd. The platform cracked under his feet. The armor on his back shifted and expanded, making him look even bigger. How long do I have? Taemin asked. The fight is tomorrow, Hyan Wu said. 1 solar cycle to prepare. That's it? That's galactic tradition. Taemin closed his eyes. He thought about Earth, about all the people there who didn't even know this was happening. He thought about his small ship in the docking bay and how easy it would be to just leave. But he also thought about what it meant to be human. Humans didn't give up. They might lose, but they didn't quit. He opened his eyes. Tell them I accept. Hyan Wu nodded and pushed back through the crowd. Taemin watched him go, then looked at Sora. She was crying quietly, trying to hide it. Hey, Taemin said. I might surprise you. You're going to fight a Rexian champion, Sora said. They're engineered for war. They're born knowing how to kill. And you're a cargo pilot. Yeah, I know. Taemin tried to smile. But I'm also human. That has to count for something. On the platform, Kather heard the news of acceptance. He roared again, louder this time, and the entire hall shook. Then he pointed one massive finger toward where Taemin stood. Tomorrow, Kather's voice boomed. Tomorrow I will show the galaxy what happens to weak species who reach beyond their grasp. Taemin stared back at him and thought about how strange life was. 24 hours ago, he was worried about fuel costs and shipping schedules. Now he was preparing to fight an alien monster in single combat with the future of humanity at stake. The universe, he decided, had a terrible sense of humor. The training room was too small for what Taemin needed to learn. Hyan Wu had cleared out the entire space, but it still felt cramped. They had less than 24 hours to turn a cargo pilot into someone who could survive even a few minutes against a Rexian champion. Hit me, Hyan Wu said. Holding up padded targets, Tae-Min threw a punch. It connected with a sad thump. Again, harder. Taemin tried. His fist hit the target with barely more force than before. Hyan Wu lowered the pads and shook his head. This isn't going to work. I know, Taemin said, breathing hard already. But what else can we do? Sora sat in the corner with her tablet, reading through every file on Rexian biology she could find. The more she read, the worse her expression became. Finally, she looked up. They have redundant organs. If you damage the heart, They have a backup. Same with their lungs. Their bones are reinforced with metal alloys that their bodies produce naturally. And their skin is tough enough to stop most blades. What about their weaknesses? Taemin asked. They don't have any. Sora scrolled through more data. At least, none that we know about. The Vrexians have been in the assembly for 300 years. They fought in ritual combat against every major species. They've never lost. Not once. I and Wu threw the training pads aside. Then we focus on survival. You're not going to beat him, Taemin. Nobody expects that. But if you can last long enough, show enough courage, maybe the assembly will respect us anyway. How long is long enough? 5 minutes would be impressive for a human. Taemin laughed, but there was no humor in it. Great. My goal is to not die for 5 whole minutes. The door to the training room opened. Ba'ara, the station's human doctor, walked in carrying a medical scanner. She was small and serious, with gray hair tied back in a tight bun. Hyanwoo called me. Said, I should check you over before the fight. Taemin stood still while Ba'ara ran the scanner over his body. The device hummed and beeped, displaying information on her tablet that meant nothing to him but seemed to concern her. Your heart rate is elevated, she said. Blood pressure is high. And you're fighting off an infection. An infection? Sora stood up quickly. What kind? Nothing serious. A common cold, probably picked up from someone at the last station. Ba'ara looked at Taemin over her glasses. I can treat it. Give you something to suppress the symptoms. Will it make me stronger? Taemin asked. No, it will just make you feel less miserable. Then don't bother. Taemin waved away the offer. If I'm going to fight, I want to do it as a human. Nothing added, nothing taken away. If I die as I am. Ba'ara frowned but put away her medical supplies. That's foolish pride talking. Maybe, but it's my pride. The next few hours passed in a blur. Hyanwoo taught Taemin how to fall without breaking bones, how to roll with impacts, how to protect his head and vital organs. It was depressing training, focused entirely on taking damage rather than giving it. But it was realistic. Taemin appreciated that So-Ria kept researching, hoping to find something useful. She contacted xenobiologists from other species, asking about any Vrexian weaknesses. The responses were all the same. Don't fight a Vrexian. If you must fight one, make peace with your death first. At some point, Taemin slept. He dreamed of Earth, of blue skies and green fields. He dreamed of his small apartment in Seoul, where everything was familiar and safe. When he woke up, his body ached and his head felt heavy. The cold was getting worse. It's time, Hyanwoo said softly. The arena is ready. They walked through the station together, Hyanwoo, Sora, Ba'ara, and Taemin. Other humans joined them along the way. Scientists, engineers, the diplomatic staff. Even the maintenance workers came. They didn't speak, but their presence said enough. Taemin was fighting for all of them. The arena was built into the largest section of the station. It was a perfect circle, 500 feet across, with walls that rose up 50 feet before the spectator seats began. The floor was made of some kind of gray stone that had been worn smooth by countless matches before this one. Dashmen looked up. Thousands of aliens filled the seats. Maybe tens of thousands. Beings from across the galaxy, all here to watch a human die. Some looked curious. Others looked hungry. A few seemed sympathetic, but they were in the minority. Remember, Hyanwoo said, gripping Taemin's shoulder. Stay mobile. Use the whole arena. Don't let him corner you. And don't die in the first 30 seconds, Sora added. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was holding herself together. Please. Taemin tried to smile. I'll do my best. Ba'ara handed him a water bottle. Drink this. Stay hydrated. He drank, then handed back the bottle. An official approached some kind of insect alien with too many legs and a translator device around what might have been its neck. "Human warrior, it is time to enter the arena." Taemin walked down the ramp. His footsteps echoed against the stone. He wore simple combat clothes, flexible pants, a fitted shirt, boots with good grip. No armor, no weapons. The rules of ritual combat were clear. Natural abilities only. The crowd noise changed when he appeared. It started as a low murmur, then grew into something like laughter. The aliens thought he looked ridiculous. A small human, barely 6 feet tall, going to fight a Vrexian champion. It must have seemed like a joke to them. Then, Carther entered from the opposite side. The laughter stopped. The Vrexian champion moved like an earthquake. Each step cracked the stone beneath him. His armor gleamed under the arena lights, black and red and terrible. All 4 arms flexed as he walked, each hand opening and closing as if eager to grab something and crush it. He stopped at the center of the arena and turned to face Taemin. Even from 50 feet away, Taemin could feel the An's presence like a physical weight. The insect official flew to the center of the arena, hovering between them. His voice, translated by devices throughout the arena, rang out clearly. "This is ritual combat between KRTHAR of the Vrexian Empire and Taemin of Earth. The rules are ancient. No weapons. No outside aid. The fight ends when one warrior cannot continue or admits defeat. Do both warriors understand?" "I understand," Cruther's voice boomed. He sounded eager, excited even. This was entertainment for him. "I understand," Taemin said. His voice sounded small in the huge space, but at least it didn't shake. "Then begin." The official flew away quickly. The crowd erupted into cheers and shouts. And Cruther charged. Tae-Min ran. It wasn't brave or heroic, but it was smart. Cruther covered the distance between them in seconds, all 4 arms reaching out. Taemin dove to the side, rolling across the stone floor just as one massive hand slammed down where he'd been standing. The impact left cracks in the floor. K further aloft. "Yes, run, little human. Run and show the galaxy how your kind survives by fleeing." The crowd loved it. They cheered as Taemin scrambled away, as Cruther pursued him with deliberate slowness. The Vrexian wasn't trying to end the fight quickly. He was putting on a show, proving human weakness to everyone watching. Taemin's heart pounded. His cold made breathing harder than it should be. Sweat dripped into his eyes. He'd been in the arena for less than a minute, and already he was exhausted. K closed in again. This time, when Taemin tried to dodge, one of those massive hands caught his shoulder. The grip was like being caught in machinery. Cruther lifted Taemin off the ground with one arm, held him up for the crowd to see, then threw him across the arena. Tae-Min hit the ground hard, rolled, and somehow ended up on his feet. His shoulder screamed with pain. Something might be broken, but he was still conscious, still moving. "Impressive," Cruther said, and he actually sounded surprised. "Most species cannot stand after that. Perhaps humans are not entirely worthless." Taemin wiped blood from his mouth. He needed to do something, anything, or this would end badly. He charged forward, surprising Cruther with his speed. The Vrexian swung, but Taemin ducked under the blow and drove his fist into Cruther's armored stomach. It was like punching a wall. Taemin felt something crack in his hand, but Cruther didn't even move. The alien looked down at him, almost curious, then backhanded him casually with one of his lower arms. Taemin flew backward again, landing hard. The world spun. He could taste blood. His hand throbbed where he'd broken something. And through it all, he felt his nose running, his throat getting scratchy. The cold was getting worse at the worst possible time. K. Rother walked toward him slowly, all 4 arms spread wide. This is the strength of humanity? This is what Earth sends to prove itself worthy. Taemin struggled to his feet. His body didn't want to obey anymore, but he forced it to move. He had to keep going. For Earth, for humanity, for everyone watching. K. Further reached for him again, moving in close. And that's when Taemin's body betrayed him in the most human way possible. He sneezed. It wasn't a small sneeze. It was the kind of sneeze that came from fighting a cold for days. The kind that exploded out before you could stop it. Taemin didn't have time to cover his mouth or turn his head. Cruther was right there, inches away, reaching for him with those massive hands. The sneeze hit the Phyrexian champion directly in the face. For a moment, nothing happened. The arena was silent. Even the crowd seemed to hold its breath, unsure what they had just witnessed. Cruther stood frozen, his hands still outstretched, droplets of human mucus and saliva glistening on his helmet. Then Cruther stumbled backward. His upper left hand went to his face, scratching at the helmet. The movement was frantic, desperate. His other hands joined in, all four limbs now clawing at his own armor. A sound came from him, not a roar this time, but something higher, almost like a whine. What's happening? Someone in the crowd shouted. Taemin backed away, confused and terrified. He'd expected KRTHAR to kill him for the insult. Sneezing on a warrior, especially during ritual combat, had to be the worst offense possible. But the Phyrexian wasn't attacking. He was falling apart. Case or a skin, visible between the plates of his armor, started to change color. The dark red was turning to an ugly purple, then to something that looked almost black. Blisters formed where the sneeze droplets had landed. The blisters grew, popped, and oozed a green fluid. The champion dropped to his knees. All four hands were still clawing at himself, but weaker now. His massive body was shaking, convulsing. The yellow eyes behind the helmet's visor had gone dim. Medical team to the arena, now. The insect official's voice cut through the shocked silence. Aliens in white suits rushed onto the arena floor. They surrounded Cruther, scanning him with devices, shouting instructions to each other in languages Taemin didn't understand. More teams arrived, carrying equipment, setting up some kind of containment field around the fallen warrior. Hyanwu and Sora ran into the arena, reaching Taemin before anyone could stop them. Are you okay? Sora grabbed his arms, looking him over for injuries. I'm fine. I'm hurt, but I'm alive. Taemin couldn't take his eyes off KRTAR. What did I do to him? I don't know, Hyanwu said. But you need to get out of here. Now. The insect official flew over to them, its many legs twitching in what might have been agitation. The human warrior must remain until the match is decided. The match is over, Hyanwu said firmly. Thur can't continue. That means Taemin wins. The circumstances are unclear. The Galactic Assembly must review what happened before a victor can be declared. More aliens were arriving now. Important-looking ones in elaborate clothes or with special markings on their bodies. They gathered around the medical team, arguing in multiple languages. Some pointed at Taemin. Others gestured angrily at the Phyrexian delegation that had come down from the stands. Pushed through the crowd, her medical scanner already out. She ran it over Taemin, then over KRTHAR from a safe distance. Her face went pale. This is impossible, she whispered. What is? Sora asked. His immune system is in complete collapse. Every defense mechanism in his body is firing at once, attacking itself, attacking everything. Dar looked at Taemin with wide eyes. What did you do? I sneezed. That's all. The medical teams were working frantically on KRTAR now. They'd removed his helmet, revealing a face that was barely recognizable. The skin had swollen, split open in places. His breathing came in terrible gasps. One of the medics turned to the assembled officials and made a gesture that needed no translation. The situation was critical. A tall alien with blue skin and robes that seemed to float on their own stepped forward. Taemin recognized him from earlier. He was the assembly speaker, something like a judge. This match is suspended pending investigation. The human warrior is to be isolated immediately. No one touches him until we understand what happened here. He's not dangerous, Hyanwu protested. Perhaps not intentionally, but clearly something about him harmed Cruther severely. The speaker pointed to a group of security personnel. Take him to medical isolation. The xenobiologist as well. She may have answers. Guards surrounded them. They weren't rough, but they weren't gentle either. Taemin found himself being led out of the arena, Sora beside him, while the crowd erupted into chaos behind them. Some aliens were cheering. Others were fleeing. A few looked at Taemin like he was a monster. The isolation room was small and white and very clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that said, dangerous things go here. Taemin sat on the single bed while Sora paced, her mind clearly racing. It doesn't make sense, she kept saying. A sneeze couldn't do that. Even with bacteria or viruses, there should be an incubation period. Time for symptoms to develop. But he reacted instantly. Maybe I'm poisonous? Taemin suggested weakly. Humans aren't poisonous. Sora stopped pacing. Unless... She grabbed her tablet and started typing furiously. Information flooded the screen: medical data, biological charts, things Taemin couldn't begin to understand. Sora's eyes got wider with each page she read. Oh no, she said finally. Oh no. What? Earth. Sora looked at him with something like horror. Taemin, do you know how many different diseases exist on Earth? A lot? Hundreds of thousands. Maybe millions. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, fungi. Earth is a biological war zone. Every human carries thousands of different microorganisms at any given time. Most of them are harmless to us, but that's because our immune systems evolved to handle them. Taemin was starting to understand. But other planets are relatively sterile. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds with very simple biospheres. They don't have the same microbial diversity Earth does. Their immune systems never had to deal with constant attacks from thousands of different pathogens. Sora sat down heavily. We're walking plague carriers to them. But I just have a cold. A cold. Rhinovirus. One of the most common viruses on Earth. Children get it and barely notice. But Cruther's immune system had never seen anything like it. It didn't know how to respond. So it went into shock. The door opened. Baora entered, followed by several alien medical personnel in full protective suits. They looked at Taemin like he was a bomb that might explode at any moment. The Vrexian champion is alive, Baora said. But barely. His body is shutting down. They're trying to stabilize him, but... She shook her head. They've never seen anything like this. One of the suited aliens stepped forward. It spoke through a translator, its real voice muffled behind the protective gear. We have analyzed samples from both combatants. The human's respiratory droplets contain multiple pathogens. Rhinovirus, as identified. Also fragments of influenza virus, Streptococcus bacteria, and several other organisms. None of these are present in Vrexian biology. None exist anywhere in our medical databases except in sealed research facilities. They're normal Earth diseases, Taemin protested. People get them all the time. Perhaps on Earth, not here. Not anywhere else in the galaxy. The alien consulted its scanner. The question now is whether this was an intentional biological attack. What? No. Taemin stood up. I didn't even know this could happen. I just sneezed. That will be for the assembly to decide. The alien turned to its colleagues. Begin full decontamination protocols. I want every surface the human has touched sterilized. Anyone who came in physical contact with him must be quarantined immediately. They left quickly, sealing the door behind them. Taman could hear locks engaging, systems activating. The room was now a prison. This is insane, he said. I'm not a weapon. To them you are. Sora pulled up news feeds on her tablet. The galaxy was exploding with reports about what happened. Headlines in a dozen languages all said the same thing. Human defeats Vrexian champion with unknown biological agent. Some called it genius. Others called it terrorism. Tamen, you just did something no one has done in 300 years. You beat a Vrexian warrior. I didn't beat him. I sneezed on him. The result is the same. Cruther can't continue the fight. According to the rules of ritual combat, that means you win. Humanity wins. But at what cost? Hyam Wu's voice came from the door. He stood outside, visible through the small window. They're terrified of us now. Half the assembly wants to expel Earth immediately. The other half wants to study you like a lab specimen. Taemin sat back down on the bed. His body still hurt from the fight. His hand was definitely broken. His shoulder might be dislocated. But none of that mattered compared to what was happening outside this room. He wanted to stay invisible, to just deliver his cargo and leave. Instead, he'd become the most famous human in the galaxy, and possibly the most feared. Through the walls, he could hear alarms blaring, medical teams rushing past, announcements in multiple languages. The station was in crisis mode, and it was all because of him, all because of one sneeze. Taemin looked at his hands. Normal human hands. A little bruised from the fight, but nothing special. Yet somehow these hands, this body, had become something terrifying to aliens who conquered star systems. What happens now? He asked quietly. Sora and Hyun Woo exchanged glances through the door window. Now, Sora said, we find out if humanity has a future in the stars, or if we've just proven that we're too dangerous to exist anywhere but Earth. The medical bay had become a war room. Screens covered every wall, displaying data that looked more like battle plans than health reports. Doctors and scientists from a dozen different species worked in controlled chaos, all of them trying to understand what had happened to Cruther, and more importantly, what it meant for every other species in the galaxy. Tae-Min watched from behind a clear barrier. They'd moved him here from isolation after he'd insisted on helping, though helping mostly meant sitting still while they studied him like a dangerous animal. He wore a special suit now, one that filtered everything he breathed out. Sora stood beside him, also suited up, translating the medical jargon into words he could understand. Cruther is stable, she said, reading from her tablet. But his immune system is damaged permanently. They're keeping him in an induced coma while they try to repair the damage. Will he survive? Probably. Rexians are tough, but he'll never be the same. Sora scrolled through more data. The assembly has called for an emergency session. They want answers before they decide what to do about Earth. The door to the medical bay opened. A woman entered, escorted by guards. She was human, middle-aged, with silver hair and sharp eyes that took in everything at once. She wore the same protective suit as everyone else, but she moved with confidence, like she belonged here. I'm the Jinn, she said, extending a hand to Taemin, then remembering the barrier between them and lowering it. Xenomicrobiologist. They called me in from Earth to help explain what happened. You must be the pilot everyone is talking about. I didn't mean to cause all this, Taemin said. I know, but you did, and now we have to deal with it. The Jinn turned to the assembled medical staff. I've reviewed all the data you've sent. I think I know what happened, but you're not going to like it. The Speaker of the Assembly entered, along with representatives from the major galactic powers. They formed a semicircle around the Jinn, waiting. The room fell silent. The Jinn activated a holographic display. An image of Earth appeared, blue and green and beautiful. This is where humans evolved. 4 billion years of biological competition, all happening on one planet. Every species fighting for survival, adapting, evolving. Plants developed poisons. Animals developed defenses against those poisons. Bacteria developed ways to infect hosts. Hosts developed immune systems to fight back. It's been an arms race for billions of years. She zoomed in, showing microscopic organisms. The result is that Earth has more microbial diversity than any planet we've encountered in the galaxy. Millions of different species of bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites. They're everywhere in the soil, in the water, in the air. And they're inside us. A reptilian alien raised a clawed hand. Inside you? As in, living within your bodies? Always. Every human carries trillions of microorganisms. They live on our skin, in our mouths, in our digestive systems. Most of them are harmless. Many are actually helpful. They help us digest food, produce vitamins, fight off dangerous infections. We couldn't survive without them. The aliens looked disturbed. Some whispered to each other. The concept seemed to horrify them. But how do you survive if you're constantly infected? Asked another alien, this one with too many eyes and a shell-like covering. That's the key, the Jinn said. Our immune systems. They're not just defenses. They're battlefields. Every second of every day, our bodies are fighting off potential threats. Most of the time, we don't even notice because our immune systems handle it automatically. They've been trained by millions of years of exposure to recognize threats and deal with them. She pulled up a new image, showing human immune cells attacking a virus. The common cold, for example. The virus that infected Taemin. On Earth, it's considered a minor annoyance. Children get it, recover in a week, and go back to playing. Why? Because our immune systems know how to fight it. We've been fighting it for thousands of generations. But Cthulhu's species hasn't, Sora said, understanding dawning. Exactly. The Jinn brought up an image of Rexian cellular structure. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that were, by Earth standards, sterile, clean. They have bacterial life, yes, but nothing like the diversity of Earth. Their immune systems never had to deal with the constant pressure that human immune systems face. They're simpler. Are you saying we're superior? The speaker's voice was cold, not superior, different. The Jinn chose her words carefully. Think of it like this. If you grow up in a perfectly clean environment, never exposed to dirt or germs, your immune system doesn't learn how to fight. Then suddenly, you're exposed to something from a place where everything is trying to kill everything else. Your body doesn't know what to do. It panics. Bora stepped forward, adding her own analysis. I've studied the progression of Cthulhu's symptoms. The moment he was exposed to Taemin's respiratory droplets, his immune system detected the foreign organisms. But it had no reference for how to respond. No memory of similar infections. So it activated everything at once, every defense mechanism, all firing simultaneously. A cytokine storm, the Jinn confirmed. That's what we call it when an immune system goes into complete overdrive. Instead of fighting the infection, it starts attacking the body's own tissues. That's what happened to Cthulhu. His immune system tried so hard to fight the human pathogens that it nearly killed him in the process. The room erupted. Aliens shouted in multiple languages. Some sounded angry. Others sounded afraid. The speaker raised a hand for silence, and eventually the noise died down. Let me understand this clearly, the speaker said. You're telling us that humans are walking biological weapons? That simply being near you could kill us? Not quite, the Jinn said. Most of the organisms we carry wouldn't survive outside a human host for long. And not all of them are dangerous to other species. But yes, some of what we carry could potentially harm species that haven't been exposed to Earth's microbial diversity, especially if there's direct exchange of bodily fluids like a sneeze. This is madness, said a delegate from the crystalline Concordat. Its body chimed like breaking glass. How can we allow such dangerous beings into the assembly? They could wipe us out without even trying. Or, said another voice, they could help us. Everyone turned. A Vrexian had entered the room. Not Kruther, this one was smaller, though still larger than any human. It wore medical bandages over parts of its body and moved carefully, as if injured. I am Terval, the Vrexian said, second champion of our empire. I have been consulting with my people about this situation. Your warrior lies dying because of humans, the crystalline delegate said. And you wish to help them? Cathor is not dying. He is recovering. Terval moved closer to the barrier where Taman stood. And he will recover stronger than before. His immune system has learned. It knows now how to fight these human diseases. If he faces them again, he will survive. The Jinn nodded slowly. That's correct. Exposure creates immunity. It's how vaccines work. We expose the body to a weakened or dead version of a pathogen, and the immune system learns to recognize it. Next time it encounters that pathogen, it's ready. So you could make us immune to human diseases? Terval asked. In theory, yes. We'd need to develop vaccines for all major human pathogens. Test them on each species to make sure they're safe. It would take time and resources, but it's possible. The speaker considered this. And if we don't accept this offer? If we simply quarantine Earth and forbid humans from leaving their system, then you lose something valuable, Terval said. Humans may carry dangerous organisms, but they also carry something else. Strength, resilience. Their immune systems are weapons. Yes, but they're also shields. They survive conditions that would kill most of us. There is honor in that. Taman finally spoke up. We don't want to be weapons. We just want to explore the stars, meet other species, learn from you. If our biology makes that dangerous, we'll find a way to make it safe. We'll develop the vaccines. We'll create protocols. Whatever it takes. And if it's not enough, ask the crystalline delegate. If despite all precautions, humans spread disease throughout the galaxy, then we'll deal with it together, Sora said. That's what the assembly is for, isn't it? Different species working together, solving problems that no one could solve alone. The speaker was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to his advisors and spoke in a low voice. They argued back and forth in their own language. Finally, the speaker faced the room again. The assembly will convene in full session to discuss this matter. Until then, all humans on this station remain in protective custody. Not as prisoners, he added quickly, seeing Haiyan Wu's expression, but for everyone's safety. Including your own. What about the ritual combat? Taman asked. Do I win? Does humanity get to join the assembly? That, the speaker said, is what we must decide. You defeated Kruther, yes. But you defeated him with biology, not skill. Some will say that counts. Others will say it doesn't. The debate will be fierce. The aliens filed out, leaving the humans alone with the medical staff. The Jinn came to stand beside the barrier, looking at Taman with a mix of sympathy and scientific curiosity. You're going to be famous, she said. The first human to prove we're tougher than we look, even if it was by accident. The assembly hall was different this time. Instead of thousands of spectators looking for entertainment, there were hundreds of delegates sitting in careful silence. Each seat represented a different world, a different species, a different set of concerns about what humanity meant for the galaxy. Taemin sat in the human section, still wearing his protective suit, feeling like an exhibit in a museum. 3 days had passed since the fight. 3 days of medical tests, interviews, and endless debate. Cruther had recovered enough to leave his coma, though he remained weak. The Vrexian delegation had been surprisingly quiet during the debates, which some saw as ominous and others saw as respectful. Dong Hyan, the lead human diplomat, stood at the center podium. He was old enough to remember when humans first reached Mars, young enough to have volunteered for the mission that led to first contact with alien life. He'd spent his entire career preparing for this moment, though probably not quite in this way. Honorable delegates, Dong Hyan began. 3 days ago, we learned something about humanity that we didn't fully understand ourselves. We learned that our biology, shaped by Earth's unique evolutionary pressures, makes us dangerous to many species in this assembly. We didn't know this. We didn't intend it. But ignorance is not an excuse. He paused, letting his words sink in. We stand before you today not to make excuses, but to offer solutions. We cannot change what we are. We cannot make Earth less competitive, less violent in its biology. But we can adapt. We can protect you from ourselves. A hologram appeared above the podium. It showed a human figure surrounded by various technical specifications. This is the Coexistence Protocol, a comprehensive set of measures designed to allow humans to interact safely with other galactic species. Wu Jin, a virologist who'd been working nonstop since arriving from Earth, stepped forward to explain. The protocol has 3 main components. First, universal vaccination. We've identified approximately 300 human pathogens that could potentially harm other species. We're developing vaccines for all of them. Any human who wishes to leave Earth must be vaccinated against these diseases. How long will that take? Asked a delegate from the Methane Breathers Collective. For basic protection, 6 months. For complete immunity, perhaps 2 years. But we can begin immediately with the most dangerous pathogens, including the common cold. Wu Jin managed a small smile at that. Second component, Dong Hyan continued. Containment protocols. All human ships and stations will be equipped with advanced air filtration systems. Any human visiting alien worlds or stations will wear protective suits until it's confirmed safe to remove them. We'll establish decontamination procedures at every human facility. Another hologram appeared, this time showing a sleek suit design. It looked less like a hazmat suit and more like something from a science fiction story, which Taemin supposed was appropriate. Third component, Wu Jin said. Medical exchange and education. We're proposing a program where human medical knowledge is shared freely with all assembly species. We'll teach you about our biology, our diseases, how to recognize symptoms and treat them. In return, we hope to learn from your medical traditions. And if this isn't enough, the crystalline delegate's voice chimed through the hall. If despite all these precautions, humans still spread plague? Sora stood up from the human section. She hadn't planned to speak, but the question demanded an answer from someone who understood the science. Then we accept responsibility and help fix it. But consider this, humanity has lived with these diseases for millions of years. We know them better than anyone. If there's an outbreak, we're the best equipped to handle it. We're not just a threat. We're also a solution. The hall murmured. Aliens consulted with each other in low voices. Some looked convinced. Others remained skeptical. Then the doors opened and Cruther entered. The entire hall went silent. The Vrexian champion moved slowly, supported by medical equipment, but he moved under his own power. His armor was gone, replaced by simple medical wrappings. The scars on his face were still visible. a permanent reminder of what had happened. He walked to the center of the hall and stood before the speaker. "I request permission to address the assembly." "Granted," the speaker said, though he looked uncertain. K-Ronder turned to face everyone. When he spoke, his voice was weaker than before, but still clear. 3 days ago, I challenged humanity. I called them weak. I called them unworthy. I was wrong. Shock rippled through the hall. Rexians never admitted error, especially not their champions. I lost that fight, Krita continued. Not because the human warrior was stronger or faster. Not because he had better technique or greater courage. I lost because his species evolved in a war zone that makes our conquered worlds look peaceful by comparison. He gestured toward Taemin. That human didn't defeat me with weapons or skill. He defeated me simply by existing. His body is a battlefield that has been fighting for 4 billion years. Every breath he takes contains armies. Every touch transfers warriors. He doesn't need to try to be dangerous. He simply is. Then you agree humans should be expelled? The crystalline delegates sounded hopeful. No. Kaether's voice hardened. I agree they should be respected. The Vrexian Empire has conquered 47 systems because we're strong. But humanity survived on a planet that tried to kill them every second of every day. That's a different kind of strength. A strength worth having in the assembly. Turval stood up from the Vrexian delegation. My people have discussed this matter thoroughly. We believe humanity's accidental victory in ritual combat should stand. They met our challenge and won. How they won doesn't matter, only that they won. Honor demands we accept the result. The Vrexians support human membership? The speaker sounded shocked. We do, with the understanding that the coexistence protocol is implemented fully and humans accept responsibility for any future biological incidents. Other delegates began speaking up. Some supported human membership now that the Vrexians had given approval. Others still had concerns. The debate raged for hours. Finally, the speaker called for silence. This is not a decision to be made lightly or quickly. The assembly will vote, but first, I wish to hear from the human who started all of this. Taemin, cargo pilot of Earth, please approach. Taemin's heart jumped. He looked at Donghayan, who nodded encouragingly. Slowly, Taemin walked to the center of the hall. Thousands of alien eyes watched him. He'd never felt smaller or more exposed. You didn't ask to be here, the speaker said. You didn't ask to fight. You were simply doing your job when you got caught up in something much larger. Yet now, you're the most famous human in the galaxy. How does that feel? How does that feel? Taemin thought about lying, about saying something diplomatic. But he'd been through too much for that. Terrifying, he said honestly. I'm just a pilot. I deliver cargo. I'm not special. I'm not a hero. I just sneezed. Some of the aliens made sounds that might have been laughter. The speaker's expression might have been a smile. And that, the speaker said, is perhaps the most important lesson here. You're not special. You're an ordinary human doing an ordinary job, which means every human carries the same potential you do. Every human is, as K. Rether said, dangerous simply by existing. That's what we must accept if we accept humanity into the assembly. It also means every human has the same potential to help, Sora called out. Taemin is ordinary. That's the point. If an ordinary human can survive the fight that nearly killed a Vrexian champion, imagine what humanity could contribute to the galaxy. Our doctors, our scientists, our explorers. We're tough because we had to be. That toughness could benefit everyone. The speaker nodded slowly. The assembly will now vote. The question before us: should humanity be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Assembly, with full membership conditional on successful implementation of the coexistence protocol. All in favor? Lights appeared above many of the delegate sections. Not all of them, but many. More than half. The Vrexians voted yes. So did the methane breathers, the Silicon Collective, even the usually cautious hive minds. All opposed? Fewer lights this time. The Crystalline Concordat voted no, along with a handful of others. Abstentions? Several more lights stopped. The speaker consulted his display, counting the votes. The hall held its breath. By a vote of 647 to 212, with 93 abstentions, humanity is granted provisional membership in the Galactic Assembly. The human delegation erupted in cheers. Hyan-Wu hugged Sora. Bora wiped tears from her eyes. Dong-Hyan allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. And Taemin just stood there, overwhelmed by what had just happened. They'd done it. Humanity was part of something bigger now. Not through military might or diplomatic genius, but through an accident that revealed a truth about who they were. K. Rotar approached Taemin slowly. Up close, the damage from the sneeze was even more apparent. The Vrexian's face would never look the same. But his eyes held no anger, only respect. You defeated me, human. I accept this. I didn't mean to, I know. That makes it more honorable, not less. You didn't cheat. You didn't use weapons. You simply existed as your species exists. Krethor.